Hello, and thank you for coming back to another episode of Dela's Voice. I'm so blessed to have this platform to reach you. Life could be a roller coaster. Most of us, and you who are listening, have had your shares of trial and tribulation. And you know people who have them too. That part we can't help. What makes the difference, though, is how we react to life's trials and tribulations. My guest today, Brett Rzuski, he's had a life of joy, love, pain, and struggle. Today, Brett is speaking up so that he can bring a little bit of inspiration to life and to show you how a single decision made the biggest change in his life and the life of his family. So I'm super, super excited and absolutely honored to bring Brett's story on Dela's Voice. So please help me welcome Brett Rzuski on the show. Hi, Brett.
Hey, Dela, thank you so much for having me. What an honor.
Welcome.
Yes, this is my first podcast interview.
Yay, good for you. Okay, I'm going to take it real easy on you, okay?
Okay.
All right. So I promise you. And we have wonderful people who watch us, and they're going to be super, super inspired by your story. I know that today your talk will bless so many people, Brett. It's going to bring so much hope, so much inspiration to a lot of people's lives. So I want to make sure and take a moment to invite everyone who's watching to please share this talk with the people you love. Yes. Do that, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Oh, there's my thumbs up. And also let us know where you're watching from, and if you have any comments or questions, leave them also in the comment section. So welcome, Brett. I'm so happy that you're here today. So why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and until more people get on, and we'll start. Okay, go ahead, my dear.
So I'm going to start off. I think my parents are watching right now. I just wanted to give them a quick shout out. Pam and Ed Rzuski. Hey, Mom and Dad. So
hey, Mom and Dad.
They're inspiration to me. My mom had stage 4 breast cancer. The year I can't even remember, maybe 2003, 2004, one of those years, I think we're right. And very aggressive for the type of cancer and her age. And around that time, that's when I met my mom, Michelle. I've been married 15 years. My mom was bound and determined to beat cancer and to be able to fly from Michigan to Washington State, where I was, to walk down the aisle at our wedding. And she made it. She beat it right in time. And then shortly after that, she also did the 60-mile Susan G. Komen Walk for the Cure. So, and they've been, my dad has been really supportive of my mom through all that. And I really don't think I would have been able to handle everything like I have if it weren't for watching their example.
So your mom says our wonderful son, and she I think she corrected you 2004.
You were one of those.
She's paying attention. Thanks, Mom. That's amazing. Brett, what brings you to us today?
So we have a really hard story to share, Dela. It's a story of a lot of suffering, a lot of tears, but also there's been a lot of hope and a lot of joy that we've been able to find in the midst of our suffering. And it's brought me to the point where I'm writing a book about our story. I don't know when it's going to be released yet, because on top of writing the book, we have 3 kids. They're 12, 8, and 5, 3 boys, 3 big boys. I work full time. I'm an X-ray tech. I work at the VA. So I'm also an 8-year Air Force vet. So if you're a veteran, hit me up. I like to chat with you about that. I'm also a caregiver when I'm home because of the stroke. Michelle hasn't been able to walk or stand since then, and she does need help taking care of herself. So, but when I find cracks in my day to write, and I love to write. It's always been a passion of mine to write. I was one of those kids when I was giving an essay in school, like, oh yes, I love it. Let's do it. So, yeah, I feel like God's giving me a gift to write. So I'm totally excited. The book is going to be called Walking Through the Valley with Jesus, how God used Moya Moya disease to help us find our voice. So that's going to be the title. And I can't wait for what's in store after that. So
I'm excited for you. I know that writing a book is a big deal, and so I'm so excited that you are working with the coach of the coaches on
Mr.
this.
Robert J. Moore.
Mr. Robert J. Moore. He's actually watching.
Oh yeah.
So he's very supportive. I know you're gonna be fantastic. I know that book's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
So you are Brett. You are doing this to help others.
Yes.
And what is your message?
So I want to help people be able to share their story and find their voice. So just to back up a little bit more, on June 10th, 2017 is when Michelle had her stroke. I was at home. I was at work, and my wife was at home with the 3 kids. Back then they were 9, 5, and 2. And Connor, my 9-year-old, my oldest, he called 911 and saved his mom. And parents, if you're listening, if you have little kids out there, teach them how to dial 911. That's what my wife did. My wife taught Connor how to dial 911 like a year prior to that, not knowing that he was going to use that to save her. So that's like a big takeaway right there. Teach your kids how to do it.
That's so simple.
You never know, especially with cell phones now. A lot of them are locked at home. So just, make sure they know how to navigate that. I think that would be a big, important thing to walk away with. And so her stroke, she was caused by a disease that she has called Moya Moya disease, Moya. You can Google it. It basically created arteriovenous malformations in both sides of her brain. So those are just like spots on both sides where something's wrong, something wasn't correct. And she was born with this disease, although we didn't know that she had it. And she was 6 weeks pregnant when she had the stroke. And sadly, our baby didn't make it. And I'm not going to share how that happened, but if you want to know, read the book when it comes out. I go into detail. I get very vulnerable with everybody on that book because, I believe that the story that what we have right now, it isn't our story to share. I believe that it's God's story that He's given us, and I believe that whoever needs to hear this message He's going to put it in front of those people. So, Michelle was away from home for about 6 months, different hospitals, subject to the system. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And there were a lot of things that we did not agree with. For example, when Michelle was at one hospital, that little human being inside of Michelle's tummy was referred to as a baby. But then after 2 weeks, she was brought into the system of our network, and it was automatically a fetus instead of a baby. And it didn't sit well with me at all. So on top of that, right after Michelle was transferred into that one hospital, there was a neurologist that said that Michelle would never be able to swallow again because the bleed was so bad that it pinched off her brainstem, and the brainstem is where the signal is initiated for somebody to swallow. And another doctor, all within minutes of each other, said that Michelle would never be able to open up her right eye because the bleed pinched off one of her optic nerves. That, her left eye was open, her right eye was shut. Swelling had gone down, but she couldn't open it yet. And the doctors were speaking all of these things over Michelle while she was in the room, and she wasn't really coherent. But she knew what was going on. I knew that she knew what was going on. So that was a wake-up call for me, because Michelle wasn't able to speak up for herself. She couldn't talk at all. So I had to speak up for her. And right away, I called a meeting in which all of the key players in the hospital, we all gathered in a room. And I basically took my gloves off and I was like, look, you are going to talk about that human inside my wife's tummy as a baby. This is a baby. This is my son or daughter. And I also said that if you are going to be telling us anything about capabilities, about what Michelle may or may not be able to do, you need to take me out of the room and talk to me privately. Do not speak over my wife. When you are speaking, you need to be speaking life over her, because I know that will affect her recovery. And I learned how to find my voice then. I learned how to speak up for Michelle. And I want to help people do that.
This is so important, Brett. We had this conversation before the show, and I told you how I can relate to this. And finding our voice to become advocates for our loved ones. Exactly. Who can't speak for themselves.
Exactly.
Right. And so many of us take a seat back and just watch, because we don't feel like we can be heard. We don't have the strength. We don't have the confidence. But it's important to get that.
Yes. I do feel like I have an advantage. I'm a healthcare worker myself. I'm an X-ray tech, like I said. So I work with doctors every day. I know how to talk to them. They don't scare me. But a lot of people don't have that experience. They don't know the system. They don't know all of these medical terminology, words that are thrown at people. But it doesn't have to be like that. And I believe that I can help people get to a point where when this does happen to them, you see, there are two different kinds of people. I believe there are people who have gone through a trauma or know somebody who have gone through trauma, or there are people who will go through a trauma. And I believe that there are things that people can do in order to help them prepare for a trauma. I know it's not possible to fully prepare yourself for any kind of trauma that comes, but there are things that you can do today to get your mind equipped so that when it does happen, when you do face that trauma, and especially now during times of COVID, I feel like this message is especially powerful because there's so many losses going on with COVID. So much trauma going on, so much loss with the pandemic, and people, I don't know. It's kind of going back to the decision. So with the decision that I made, I knew that I have a lot of lives depending on me. My wife was depending on me. My boys were depending on me. So I knew that if I didn't make that decision to show up for my family, to be the best dad, the best husband, the best caregiver that I can be, that would have a direct relationship with how they grew up, because they could have grown up with a bunch of bitterness and resentment and angry, because we know what happens when things fester with people and they don't deal with it. They aren't happy, and they make everybody around them miserable too. So I made that decision early on, right after the stroke. Like, I am going to do this for my family. And I believe that God was preparing me for that. I just want to give you a couple of examples of how I was being prepared for something that I didn't even know was coming. First, I was involved with a bunch of positive people, positive men. We met every Friday at 6 with a Bible study, and
this was way before the incident.
This started months before the stroke.
I just want to say this because this is awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
You were getting ready to be ready to deal with something big, and you had no clue.
And these men that we probably had on any given Friday, there would be like at least 5 people there, 5 guys, just godly people, and they didn't tell you, they didn't hold anything back. If the Bible says, iron sharpens iron, just like one man sharpens another. And let me tell you, there was a lot of iron sharpening going on back then, before the stroke. And after the stroke, who do you think I turned to the most for support? Those guys. Those guys were amazing. In fact, one of them was just over yesterday that I hadn't seen in a while. Thanks for coming over, Mark, just to offer some help. And it was 3 years ago in the stroke, and you see it's still going on. So, but yeah, if you're not, I know it's really hard right now. People are social distancing, but do what you can to get around some other people. That human connection is so important. Because we are social creatures. We're not meant to do this life alone. So I just want to encourage people who are listening, if they don't have a group, to find a group, find somebody that will strengthen them and help them become a better version of themselves.
Thank you. On that note, someone who supports you is your dad. You are doing fantastic, Brett. Mom and I are very proud of you. You are influencing a lot of lives today, Brett. You are definitely helping a lot of people right now.
Thank you.
So let's keep talking.
Yeah.
So you were saying that we need to learn how to get ready for something traumatic to happen, and so let's keep positive here and be prepared. I mean, that's what we want, right? This is not saying, expect a catastrophe to happen. No, that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, don't be worried.
Right?
Don't be worried about something happening. Right? That's counterproductive.
Exactly.
When you worry and have anxiety about something about it happening in the future, you just have to just try to become a better person of yourself, I guess. And yeah, it is a hard thing to talk about because people are like, how can I possibly be ready for something that I don't even know comes? Or I just want to also kind of go back. So we can relate with a lot of people. I'm a veteran. I'm a husband. I'm a caregiver. We lost two children. So the first one that we lost was back in 2009. Michelle was 20 weeks pregnant, and when Jacob's heart stopped beating, and epidural, delivery, whole nine, and there was so much else going on around that one time. And I thought that was hard. I thought that was hard to deal with. Little did I know what was coming. So again, it says in the Bible that all things happen for good for those who love God and called according to his purpose. And with Michelle's stroke, it would be really hard by yourself to think that something good could possibly happen, because with something so bad happening, with our loss of the baby, with the loss that everything that Michelle has experienced and still is experiencing. So for those prayer warriors out there, my wife needs prayer, just for all of the losses that she has experienced and hope for the future. So I'm so excited that Michelle is able to help with the book. She's given me ideas and things to think and things that she thought about. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's so fun. Also, a part of this journey, I met a man named Alan, who was also being coached by Robert, and Alan gave me a chapter to write. Alan gave me a chapter to write in his book called Overcoming Trauma, and that's going to be with a lot of other co-authors. And with Robert, I'm going to be writing a chapter in one of his books called Learning My Why. So I have a big why of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And I want to help people also with that. So I'll be writing a chapter. So in the end, there'll be 3 books with my name on it that people can get their hands on. And I'm so excited to just share this message with everybody. Like I said before, it is a really hard message, but it is a message of hope.
So Brett, let me show you a couple of more amazing comments. Such an amazing positive attitude. You are inspiring. We love you. You have a wonderful family. I want to say this, that when this happened to Michelle, you went through a little bit of a conflict inside, that you told me that you were angry. And then you made that switch. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think if I weren't angry about this happening at all, I think there might be something wrong with me. I think so. What you see right now, you see a positive attitude. It's been developed over the past 3 years, and also it's been molded by God. There's seriously no other way for me to be able to explain it than bringing him in the front and center, because he has given me the grace to have that positive attitude. And I'm excited for what he's going to allow happening. So just to kind of give you perspective, again, 2 weeks ago, I was invited to be on a talk show with Jim Beard, or a game show with Jim Beard. It was on Facebook. There's this game show called X's and O's. It's a entrepreneur game show, and that's where I met Robert. And I also met a guy named Jake. And wow, these guys, I'll tell you, I would have never been connected with them if it weren't for that game show. And a friend of mine, Tony, invited me. And I've never met these people in person. I can't wait to shake their hand one day. Forget shaking hand. I'm going to give them a hug because they've been so helpful and so just encouraging for me. But this literally happened like 2 weeks ago. I started to write the book about a year ago. And then I kind of put it off. I wasn't committed, but just lately I'm like, I can see how this can help people. So I need to get this done. So every spare chance that I can, I find pockets in my day. And, I put a thought down. In fact, right before this, I was just working on it a little bit for like a half hour, just so I take audio clips on my phone so I don't forget, and I listen to them. Oh yeah, I want to make sure I record that. There's so many details, and I don't want to leave anything out. So, yes. But yeah.
So you were on the game show.
I was on the game show. I almost won. It was Alan and I were the 2 contestants, and I had So we had 3 games of tic-tac-toe, and I won. He won the first one. I won the second. On to the third. So it was like do or die, right? And then it came down to the last question. So with the game show, there were 9 experts on the board. So picture like a tic-tac-toe board. Each square had an expert, and I guess it's kind of like Hollywood Squares, people have said. So the host would ask a question to the expert, and then the contestant, so Alan or I, would agree or disagree with the answer. And if we got that right, then we got an extra O. I answered wrong on the last one. Otherwise, I would have won the game. And what that would have given me is just a lot of free coaching from the other contestants, and just a lot of other neat tools for entrepreneurs. And even though I lost, I didn't walk away empty-handed. I walked away with an amazing relationship with Robert, and he's going to be posting my book through Magnetic Entrepreneurs LLC, and I'm excited for that. And I made a relationship with Jake, and just yesterday we were talking about a partnership that we could have, helping other people share their story through a software called Groove Funnels. And I'm just like, wow.
And you got a chapter in Alan's book.
I got a chapter in Alan and a chapter in Robert's, and Robert's going to get me on 3 different podcasts. And as I'm sharing this, other people are like, hey, I want to get you on my podcast. So I'm like, it's totally not me. I'm just, like I said, I'm just sharing the story that I feel like God has given us to share. And
so what's the story here, Brett?
What's
what's the lesson here? What's the lesson in this? There's a big lesson in this.
Try to come up with one, huh? On the spot.
Right? No, because I'm thinking of the lesson. And to me, the lesson is when you're open to opportunities, like you have accomplished so much in the past 2 weeks, ever since you've been on that game show.
Yeah.
That you decided not to go for it.
Right, exactly.
Right? You
decided not
podcast
to be on the game show, or if I would have just brushed it off, I would have never been here. I mean, I got connected to you through Robert.
That's right.
On the game show.
And you're getting your story out. So I think there's a big lesson here. And a lot of people would look at things that come up and say, no, I don't want to do that. That's such a waste of time. That's such an way that I'm not going to do that. Why am I going to do that? And here you are looking at it and saying, no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. There's a reason why this came in my way. I'm going to take this step, and I'm going to do this and see what happens. And it doesn't matter what happens at the end. I'm just going to do it.
We're told in the Bible to walk by faith, not by sight. And I'm walking by faith, and I'm just blown away. So I have a journal also that I was keeping notes on right after Michelle's stroke, and I was looking through the journal just last week, I think, as I'm doing research for the book and just make sure I include everything. And I was surprised by what I wrote. Just a few days after her stroke, I said there are 2 things that I want to have happen as a result of this. I want more people to come to Jesus, and I want to help people get through their trials. And here I am. And just for me to think like that it's not about me right after the stroke. I mean, that how unnatural is that, right? How unnatural is it? But that was God again giving me the grace to say, yeah, it's not about you. I'm going to do something amazing. I'm going to do some work, and I'm going to use you. So again, it's being open for the opportunity. Yeah.
So as you're saying this, I'm thinking back at what's been happening in my own life in the past 3 years, and you're so right, because some things happen and it leads to the next step, and then it leads to the next step, and then it leads to the next step. And at the moment when you're going through something really hard, as a matter of fact, you don't understand it. You may not understand it. You might be angry. You might you might ask, why me? But
Those questions are okay.
right.
Those questions
Yeah,
are
and
okay.
they're okay. But
But it,
having the faith to
yeah,
know, not to think, just really to know that something is going to come out of this, like you
yeah,
said.
yeah,
That's really important, and that's what your message is. That's what you mean by getting ready,
right.
um, right? So there's a big message here, Brett. So what are some things that you think people can do to be ready for some traumas?
Well, I'll just walk you through where how I believe I was ready for this. So, God is front and center in my life. And for me, reading certain scriptures, for example, there's a book in the Bible. It's called James. I'm going to open it up real quick so I don't get the verse wrong. And in the church that we go to uh, every quarter before COVID, that we do Bible study with all the men. So we gather as a congregation in the foyer area, and we just dive into the Word. Right before that, we were looking into James, the book of James, and almost there.
And as you are finding your verse, I want to say this too, that no, I'm not a Christian, but I totally understand what you're saying right now, because I can relate to getting ready, inward, like inside. We need to get ready, getting to know ourselves, finding our faith, right? Being able to get stronger,
Mhm.
right, to be able to look
It's
fear.
also physically. So
Yes, exactly.
you're physically fit because how much easier is it for us to handle things mentally when we are in a physical better condition to do that. So
Absolutely. So get ready physically,
physically,
spiritually,
spiritually,
mentally,
mentally,
right?
and
Emotionally.
get connected with people.
Yes.
Don't be
Yes.
don't try to do life on your own.
Oh, that's yeah. Got it. Go ahead. Go ahead and read us what
The
you want.
verse is James chapter 1, verse 2. It says, "Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its perfect result, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." So
What's your
that
take
was
on
part of
this?
it. What's that?
What's your take on this?
My take is that, well, when you read something before like trauma happens and you read it afterward, it means something. It means totally different.
Yes.
It comes alive. It really does. And we had just gone through the book of James 1 month before Michelle's stroke. We finished a month later. Boom, Michelle's stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no accident that was the book that we were going through. There was no accident when it happened the way that it did. Another verse that I had highlighted, and this is important, I talk about this in the book. Romans 8:18 says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that is to be revealed to us." So, while we were waiting for Michelle to be done with her surgery, Pastor Scott, he was the one of the first people there. He stayed. I think he arrived at like 4 or 5 o'clock. Stayed till midnight, and he actually completely changed his sermon that he was going to say, because stroke happened on a Saturday, and so he had his sermon all prepared. But after everything he experienced, he completely changed the sermon on that Sunday and focused more about loving each other and being compassionate to one another and bearing with their burdens with one another. So, but he started with Romans 8, and he started, I think, at Romans 8:26. But then I have a app on my phone called YouVersion, and on that app, I had previously highlighted to that Romans 8:18 verse, And as he was reading, I was like, Scott, no, I have something here that I want to read that I highlighted before it. And I read that. And it was like, you could hear a pin drop. So it's like, wow, this, and like Michelle had just literally had a stroke, and here God has given me the peace right away to be thinking that, okay, what's happening right now, there is more what's to come. For I consider the sufferings of this present time are not worthy compared to be the glory that is to be revealed.
And that's so big. That's so big, because so many of us get stuck in that moment and the misery and the pain, and to remember that if you have faith, that something bigger is supposed to come out of this. This is just a temporary situation. That is so true for everybody, Brad.
Yeah.
And to know that and to believe that can help us get through anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. That's so good. I know that you have something prepared, and you want to show us. And but I want to ask you, what's the big example that you're showing to your boys?
Well, I'm showing them that there's more to life than yourself, that there's since I have 3 boys, I'm showing them how to love your wife. And I've encountered so many people since the stroke about spouses leaving each other, divorces happening after something like this happening. Stroke, in particular, stroke. And the husband would leave. They would have kids and he would leave. And I'm just like, the time where where they need us the most, we're absent. And I don't understand. So I'm teaching my boys how to love their wife.
You're teaching them so much more, and so much more. They're seeing a true example of how to live through a difficult situation.
They're actually teaching me too. So a few days after the stroke, I was able to have some alone time with the kids, because they needed to be with me as much as I wanted to stay at the hospital. They needed to be with their dad too. So somebody was staying with Michelle, and I was at home with the kids. And I want you to know that it's not all sunshine and roses. So especially in this time. So Easton was 5 years old then, and he might have been pushing my last nerve. Just you know how 5-year-olds can be. They ask questions and questions and questions, and I lost it. I snapped, and I said, I don't know what I said, but I yelled. And then right after that, I just collapsed to the floor, and I started bawling. I started crying. And Easton, who's 5, he came up to me, gave me a hug on the floor. He dropped me, gave me a hug, and he started crying with me. He started crying with me, and he was like, Dad, it's going to be okay. And I don't think that response from him would have been possible if I had not made that decision to show up better for my family. So.
Whew.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wow. Okay. You're so correct in saying that we must have a relationship with the Lord and rest in Him. Again, so much faith, right? Faith.
Yes, God.
Amazing. We never close a door open to potential opportunities. True.
Yeah.
Take
Thank
those.
you for being engaged here, Faraday.
Okay, so do you want to go ahead and show us what you have prepared?
Yeah, so a friend of ours did a slideshow for Michelle. She was a senior last year, and she did a presentation in her class. So she did this slideshow. We gave her pictures, and I just wanted to share with you guys to give you a little bit more perspective. And as I do that, I'm going to be playing a song by Mercy Me. It's called Even If. And this is a song that Michelle and I would have playing in our hospital room, maybe a couple months after the stroke, when she finally has her voice. Actually, the first time she was able to speak, it was in a song. So the first time that she was able to speak, I remember that right now. The first time words actually came out of her mouth after stroke was with a song. And this is one of the songs that we sang. We had the music turned up and we were singing loud. So I'm gonna play. I'm gonna share my screen. It's the first time that Dela's done this on the live
I know.
show. So hopefully it goes right. Maybe she'll do
See,
it again.
this is how brave this guy is. I said, I've never done this before, Brad. He's like, there's a first time for everything. Here you go. Pushing boundaries here.
That's right. All right, you just let me know. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to add it to the stream, okay? Is it
Okay.
ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Can you see it okay?
Yes, perfect.
All right. I'm gonna press play on the song. I'm gonna have it kind of quiet and I'll kind of walk you through some things. But this is my family. So here's Caden, Easton, Connor, and of course that's Michelle. All right. So this is what she looked like right after the stroke. So her eyes were swollen shut because of the brain bleed. She has this on her head because her brain is exposed. They had to take off the right side of her skull, and they actually had to remove, you see the cursor over here, they had to remove this part of her brain. Oh, sorry. The major part of the temporal lobe they had to take out because the bleed was so bad. She had about 200 milliliters of blood pool in the right side of her brain, which actually made a 2.5 centimeter midline shift. So if you look on the picture right here, you have your right brain and your left brain. Here's the midline. So this part of the brain was pushed over 2.5 centimeters. So here's Easton. Awesome kids. Caden. This is at one of our therapy appointments. So we put this hat on Michelle because, there was skin over the brain, so it wasn't fully exposed, but we didn't want the kids to see all the stitches and everything. So this is what they would have seen if the hat wasn't on her head. So you can see the scar and the staples over here. This right here, that was a burr hole that was drilled in her head on the way into the OR. They extracted 80 milliliters of blood before she went into surgery to give her brain room for the swelling. And this, before she was able to talk, she had a whiteboard. Her brother, thanks Ryan, her brother gave her the whiteboard. And before she could talk, she could write. And that's how she communicated on a whiteboard. So this was on our anniversary. This was July 16th, 2017. So I had wanted to watch one of her favorite shows with her. She was becoming more aware at this point, but this day she was not. She wasn't aware. She was really tired and slept the whole time I was there. So I took this picture. In this picture here, this is when she was still a resident at her nursing facility. But they allowed her to come home for a day. So first time that she was home after the stroke. So working on standing. All of these pictures. This picture here, she is finally released to come home. And this was our first time as a family continuing our tradition of pizza movie night. Every Saturday we have pizza movie night at home. And this was the first Saturday that we did it after her stroke. We're all together again. A beautiful wife.
She is beautiful. A courageous woman.
And she had to have another brain surgery. So this scar here, it goes down the left side or by her ear. And she had to have the moyamoya. The moyamoya disease affected both sides of her brain. And she had to have this side, the left side, corrected. And this is the paramedic who saved her life. He's a retired veteran, U.S. veteran. I can't remember which branch. I think it was Special Forces. Anyway, Michelle wanted to meet him, so this is when we finally met at the fire station. And I can't even remember his name. I need to find out again.
This is the guy who saved her.
Yeah, he intubated her. He realized that Michelle had a stroke because anytime, and when your pupils are blown, they call it blown pupil. It's when they're not reactive to light and they're dilated. That's usually a telltale sign that somebody has had a hemorrhagic stroke or a brain bleed. And he noticed that right away and intubated her on the spot. So when actually he found Michelle was, I learned by reading the hospital notes that Michelle was laying off of the bed. Her body was hanging off of the bed. And that's what Connor saw when he dialed 911 and saved her. And he also saw her have a seizure. So, yeah, my hero here. No.
Smart guy.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, this is Michelle getting back to cooking, gardening. So she's doing her best to live life. I want to talk about this picture here. This is Catherine Wolf. Search for her on Facebook or Instagram. She has an amazing story as well. So she had a brainstem stroke when she was 26. So when Michelle had her stroke, she was 35. But Catherine had her stroke about 12 or 13 years ago. And her neurosurgeon said that it was the worst place that she could have had a stroke and the worst bleed that he's ever seen. And her and her husband, Jay, have started a ministry called Hope Heals. And on that ministry, they actually wrote a book called Hope Heals, and then a sequel called Suffer Strong. And they have this is actually in Birmingham, Alabama. Michelle and I and the family, we live in Oregon right now. And so we flew out to Birmingham, Alabama for this week-long retreat called Hope Heals Camp. And this is where people get it. It is so helpful. This is all the people here. It's so helpful to know that people understand where you are. It's good to have help and support, but to have somebody who knows it, who gets it, that's what has really helped us. And this is us at a dance party. Michelle and I actually went to Hope Heals Camp the first time we went by ourselves, just the two of us. And yeah, we're dancing. That was a highlight there. Yeah, this is Long Beach, Washington. This is a surgeon that saved her right here, Dr. Antizana. So he saved her life. And I was told by the nurses and nurse practitioners that if Dr. Antizana hadn't had any hope in Michelle's survival, that he would have stopped the surgery. But he continued, and here we are.
Wow.
This was Thanksgiving. So our church has been so amazing. Our church provided all of the fixings, the turkey, the rolls, everything for not one Thanksgiving, but 2 Thanksgivings. And what is also really special about this day is Michelle can eat. Remember I told you that Michelle was told that she would never be able to swallow again. She ate the first Thanksgiving dinner. She had a stomach tube that was pulled November 2nd. So it was pulled right before Thanksgiving.
Yay.
Yeah. So praise God for that. That's awesome. She is.
And
She
the
also has
picture. Sorry, could go back to that last picture. Does your family?
yeah.
Mom and dad?
This is Michelle's parents. This is her mom and dad. They've been so supportive and helpful of us. They actually have been living in our house for the past 3 years during the week, which I'm so thankful our church pulled together and they built a 300 plus square foot addition onto our home with a brand new bathroom. So that's where they live in that addition. So nice.
Oh,
I'm so thankful for their hearts and wanting to serve us and being here for my family also.
amazing.
And Michelle also has a card business. She is designing cards. She's actually working on our cards now. So yeah, if you guys are interested.
So greeting cards?
Yeah. Like greeting cards, like birthday cards. Yeah,
So,
she used to be so much into crafting. She finally got back into it just a few months ago.
you need to give us that link of how people can see her stuff, and if someone's interested to order cards or something.
Yeah, we don't have a link yet. I need to get her set up. Right now it's just on Facebook. So
Oh, well, they can reach you, can't they?
yeah, they can reach me.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Brett, for taking us through your journey and showing us your family, your beautiful wife. I just know in my heart that she's getting better and better and better every single day.
Yeah.
With your faith, her faith, and your strength, and the strength of your community and family. And oh, this is an amazing story.
Yeah.
So much power in this story.
And she's still making gains. So she is going to a private gym right now. We love the place where she's going. They work her hard. So it is expensive though. We're actually the place that she's going to, insurance doesn't. They don't accept insurance because they don't want to be bound by any constraints. So they want to be able to do whatever needs to be done for Michelle. So because of that, because of everything that has been going on, I want to, in the future, I need to get through the book first, one thing at a time, right? I want to start a nonprofit, and the nonprofit will be around moya disease, bringing more awareness. And then there is a nonprofit right now with moya. I'm not sure what they're doing. I need to find out. Maybe we can collaborate. But I want to be able to have a pot of money where people can pull from when they need it. For example, like the therapy, very expensive, and I want people to be able to have something to do it and without having the financial constraint. So that's my plan for the future. I'm not sure when. I don't know where this is going to take me, but that's what I want to do. So.
Oh, you put it out there. Put it out there in the universe. So you talk about moya. This is my very first time ever hearing about moya. Yeah. And so, can you give us a little bit of a background on moya?
So without being too medical, because I'm a healthcare worker, so moya disease is something that people are born with. What it does is it causes the arteries in the base of your brain to become narrowed over time, which is called stenosis. So stenosis means narrow, just it's a smart word. So with the arteries becoming narrowed, it prevents the blood and oxygen to flow to the brain. So the brain doesn't get all of the blood and oxygen that it needs. So it's smart. The brain is smart. So it knows what it needs to do. So it creates these artificial arteries to compensate for the lack of blood and oxygen that it doesn't get. And those arteries that were the artificial ones, those are the ones that ruptured on the right side while she was pregnant. So, and we don't know if it was a boy or a girl. Michelle, we struggle. We just struggle with that, but we know that God has a plan for that baby as well. So,
So Moya Moya is you said it's predominantly from.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's uh, predominant in Asian women. And Michelle would actually have headaches for several years. Ever since she was a kid, she would have headaches. And the Moy Moy disease was never caught. So the headaches are really hard to diagnose. They're really, headaches can be all sorts of things. You can get headaches from dehydration. You can get tension headaches, which is what everyone thought Michelle had. Um, but
But
it wasn't.
you said she's 25% Japanese because her
Yeah,
grandma is
it's 25%. Her grandma was 100% Japanese, and her grandma actually died when she was 50 of a brain aneurysm, or at least we thought it was a brain aneurysm. But now with Michelle having moya moya, we kind of think that it was the same thing. Of course, there's no way to prove that, but so yeah, Michelle has this moya moya disease. There is no cure for it. So, excuse me, she had the stroke on the right side of her brain, and she had to have the left side of her brain corrected. But there's a possibility that it can come back. There's a possibility that the narrowing of the arteries can show up elsewhere. And I know a lot of other, I know some other people with moya moya disease, and they're affected in different ways. So, but yeah, I definitely don't want to bring awareness to it.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to bring, I don't want to bring any panic to it. I just want to, if people are thinking, oh, I'm Asian, I'm a woman, I have headaches, doesn't necessarily mean you have moya moya disease. It
Right.
just kind of just be mindful that there is something out there such as that.
Okay.
So
thank you.
And it is hereditary. So that was another reason why we think that what her grandma had is what Michelle, we had the same thing. And thankfully our kids were tested and they're all negative.
So there's a couple more comments. Michelle's greeting cards are beautifully done and crafted with love.
Yeah, I gotta thank her mom for that one as well. So her mom, since Michelle doesn't have her left arm is paralyzed also because of the stroke. So her mom has been really helpful in getting those cards done. And so a shout out to Connie. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie.
Yeah.
Your babies are with Grandpa.
Yeah. So I talked to you about how my mom had stage 4 breast cancer and she survived that. Well, her dad, my grandpa, had pancreatic cancer at the same time. Yeah, and he was taken to be home with the Lord then. So
there's another comment here from Debbie. I commend everything you have and are still doing for your family. I can understand some of what Michelle's going through, as I have gone through a different brain trauma and surgery myself. I wish her all the best in her recovery.
So Debbie, I have a Facebook group that I just created. The link is in the comments.
Yes,
speakupwithbrett.com. I just created that. I would love for you to join. Because I just created it yesterday, I'm not opening up the doors yet, but request access to it. And when I have enough people in the group, and when I have when I'm done, there's still things that I want to do to get the group set up. I'm going to open up the doors and launch it. So I just want to be able to, I want it to be an awesome community for people, to be a safe place to share your story. And inside that group, I'm also going to be learning and teaching you how to share your story, because we all have a story to share. And just because I'm the one speaking right now about it, I don't need to be the only one. So you have a story that you need to share also. And that's what I'm going to be doing about inside the Facebook group. So I'm thankful that I'm going to be working with Robert. He's going to be coaching me and helping me and Michelle to be able to share our story effectively. And we'll see where it goes after that.
Awesome. Big shout out to Robert J. Moore. He's a coach with a soul and a big heart.
Yeah.
I also want to thank him for everything he does to impact other people's lives. Brett, your voice is going to be heard. This is big. This is This is huge. I want to thank
Beyond me, for sure.
I want to thank you, and I want to acknowledge, and I want to appreciate you for
Thank you.
putting
Thank you
yourself
for having
out
me on.
there. It's amazing. I think you're gonna uplift people. You're gonna influence other people's lives. You're gonna give them a voice.
That's
You're gonna help them in so many ways, and that's the reason why you've gone through everything you've gone. So I want to thank you. The viewers are thank you. Does lots of love to you and your family.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor, and everything happens for a reason, and I can still say that after the suffering that everything happens for a reason, and we just have to have our eyes open and look for what that reason is.
I want to give you a couple of more minutes to say whatever you want, to leave with whatever you want.
I think what Della said earlier about being open to opportunities is so huge, because if I didn't agree to go on that game show, I wouldn't be here. If I didn't see the opportunity that I could have and the influence of my boys, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't. Who knows where our family would be right now? And if I didn't see the opportunity to speak to people and to inspire them, then I wouldn't be able to reach you. So I'm opening up the door to see what God's going to do with this.
Whew. That's a great message. Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. Thank you so much, Brad. I can't wait for your community to start and grow. I can't wait for your book to be finished and out there, and all these chapters you're writing in
I
all
know.
these amazing books.
So excited to offer that to people. So
I feel like we're gonna be hearing more and more and more, but more about Brett Ruszewski and his love for life, and I can't wait. I can't
and
wait
my
to
wife,
see you grow.
and I'm gonna, yeah, I want Michelle's message to be told without her, without what happened to her, and we wouldn't have this. And it's so hard to know that, to see what happened to her. But again, we try to take the bad and try to make good out of it. So
That's it. That's that reaction, right? Debbie
yeah.
says, "Thank you, Brett."
You're welcome.
It says, "Robert, thanks so much for taking Brett under your wing and being a great coach for him." Robert, when fathers thank you, you're doing a great job. Thank you. Thank you so much for the engagement, the interaction, the comments, the love, the hearts. Be sure to please share this with the people that you think are going to benefit from this. Some shout out to people who have been watching, to Lisa, Anna Palmer, Henrik, Rakesh, Ed, Pam, Frida, Lynn, Jim, Pejman, Robert, Debbie. Thank you, everybody who's been watching the show.
You guys. We're on Facebook, so don't just wait for access into the group. I'm on Messenger quite a bit.
So reach out to Brett Ruszewski, Rezewski, as it's showing on his picture, right? There you go. Reach out and connect this awesome guy. So that's that, and it was an awesome talk. Thank you so much for your courage, for your amazing positivity that you bring out to the world, Brett. I so appreciate you, my friend.
All right.
So with that, I want to thank you, everyone who's been joining to watch this show. As always, take what you want and leave the rest. And may you be blessed in your lives. Till next time, this has been Dela's Voice, hoping to spark your soul. Take care. Bye.